Pigeon. So here in Pigeon, on my front leg, I'm trying to evert my ankle so that the sole of my foot faces away from the midline of my body. My ankle is in dorsiflexion, my knee is in flexion, and my hip is abducting, abducting, so that I can try and keep my pelvis facing forwards. It's also externally rotating so that I'm able to actually bring my front leg forward and externally rotate. And it's also in flexion. My back leg, the hip is extended. It's also adducting, again, so I can bring my pelvis facing forward. The knee is extended and the ankle is in plantar flexion, so the toes are pointing away. And the difficult areas for me here are my foot everted, find that quite tricky on my ankle, and my hip in flexion on the forward leg, and I think that feels like it's because I've got tight hamstrings, so also maybe because I have weaker quads, that movement's quite difficult. And the back hip in extension, possibly again due to tight hip flexors and maybe tight or weak quads and hamstrings. So the three exercises that I would do to help create a bit more mobility would be for my feet to get used to the feeling of everting. I just thought about sort of taking hold of the foot and just practicing that movement of everting and inverting, everting and everting, inverting, just so that I can get used to the movement there. And also here you actually have time to take hold of the foot and bring in some ankle mobility as well. And then for my hip flexion, I thought quite a nice all-rounded one would be in a low lunge and bringing up my back leg, so that the front leg, when it's in lunge, if I press down into that heel, I'm actually strengthening the quad on this leg, and obviously my hip is in flexion anyway, so this whole leg is engaged. And then if I draw up my back leg here and I work into this pose, I'm also working my hip flexor and this quad here. So actually all of my areas in both legs are doing lots of work here and strengthening, lengthening, in flexion and in extension. And then for the last one, for my hip in extension, a really nice one, which I think I've done before, coming in and out of bridge. So again, coming up, getting the extension in my hip flexors, pressing into my heels, strengthening in my quads, and coming down and repeating this. And again, I'll do pigeon on this side this time. Oh, on this side this time, showing that because I'm very tight in the hips, I can actually use a block here just to support that hip whilst I concentrate on this front leg and keeping my pelvis level.